You're walking through Skyrim, minding your own business, and suddenly, a disembodied voice starts talking to you from a shrine. Maybe it's Mehrunes Dagon asking you to commit murder, or Molagbal wanting you to corrupt some poor priest. These Daedric princes act like they own the place, right? Like nothing in existence could touch them. But here's the thing that keeps me up at night when I dive too deep into Elder Scrolls lore. What if they're lying? What if these godlike beings who treat mortals like playthings actually have something they're terrified of? Something that makes even Molagbal sweat. Today, we're going down one of the deepest rabbit holes in Elder Scrolls lore. We're talking about the actual limits of Daedric power, the things that make these princes nervous, and yeah, the horrifying implications of what exists beyond even them. Let me start with probably the most clear-cut example of Daedric fear we have in the entire series. His name was Jiggelag, and his story is absolutely wild. So Jiggelag was the Daedric Prince of Order. While all the other princes represent chaos, madness, destruction, all that fun stuff, Jiggelag was the complete opposite. He represented pure, perfect order, total predictability, absolute logic. His library contained predictions of everything that would ever happen, written down before it actually occurred. Now here's where it gets interesting. Jiggelag's power kept growing, and growing, and growing. His realm of perfect order started expanding across Oblivion, and he had documented everything that would ever be, is, and was. He became so unbelievably powerful that he posed a genuine threat to the other princes. Think about that for a second. These are beings who regularly destroy cities for fun, who've existed since before time was a thing, who can literally shape reality in their own domains. And they were scared, actually genuinely scared of Jiggelag. The other Daedric princes did something unprecedented. They worked together. All of them, or at least most of them. These beings who normally spend their time plotting against each other, who view cooperation as weakness, they formed an alliance specifically to take Jiggelag down. And they didn't just defeat him. They cursed him. They turned him into Sheogorath, the Prince of Madness, the one thing Jiggelag hated most, the complete opposite of everything he stood for. Can you imagine? It would be like if someone turned you into the thing you fear most, and you had to live as that thing for eternity. But the curse had a built-in timer. At the end of every era, Jiggelag could return to his true form during something called the Grey March. He'd reconquer the Shivering Isles, restore perfect order, and then, bam, right back to being the Mad God, over and over again, forever. This is important because it shows us something crucial. The Daedric princes can actually feel fear, real, genuine terror, enough to make them break their usual patterns of backstabbing and scheming. Enough to work together. And what scared them? Another Daedric prince, one of their own. Now let's talk about someone who might be even more interesting, Sotha Sil. This guy was one of the tribunal gods, basically a mortal who achieved godhood through some sketchy business with the heart of Lorkhan. And he did something that still blows my mind when I think about it. In the year 2920 of the First Era, Molagbal destroyed an entire city, just manifested and wiped it off the map. This was after the Daedric princes were supposed to be leaving mortals alone, according to tradition. But Molagbal didn't care. He's the Prince of Domination. That's what he does. So Sotha Sil, this mortal turned god, decided enough was enough. He traveled to Cold Harbor. Let me repeat that. He voluntarily went to Molagbal's realm, the place that's literally described as a nightmare parody of reality soaked in blood. And he called a meeting. 8 Daedric princes showed up. Azura, Boethia, Hermaeus Mora, Hircine, Malakath, Mehrunes Dagon, Molagbal, and Sheogorath. These are beings who've existed since the beginning of everything, beings who can crush mountains and twist reality, and they sat down to negotiate with a mortal. The result was the Cold Harbor Compact. We don't know all the details, but here's what we do know. Sotha Sil somehow convinced these princes to limit their direct interference with the mortal world. He offered them something, or threatened them with something that made them agree to back off. And when Mehrunes Dagon broke the compact later that same year by attacking Mournhold, Sotha Sil and Almalexia didn't just banish him. The lore says Dagon was broken on the soil of Mournhold. Sotha Sil then sealed off all planar access to the Deadlands as punishment. Think about what that means. A mortal, even a god-empowered one, had enough leverage to punish a Daedric prince. To actually lock him out of the mortal realm, what could Sotha Sil have possibly offered or threatened that would make beings of nearly infinite power agree to his terms? There's a hint in one of the obscure texts. Hermeus Mora, the Prince of Knowledge, apparently agreed to a pact with every mortal on Nirn in exchange for something he dearly desired, something valuable enough that he'd limit his own power. What could the prince who knows everything possibly want that badly? Alright, now we're getting into the really weird stuff. Let's talk about Sithis and the Void. So most people know Sithis from the Dark Brotherhood, the Dread Father, the Void, all that edgy assassin imagery. But Sithis is way more than that, like cosmically more. According to various creation myths, before anything existed, there were two forces, Anu and Padomai, stasis and change, order and chaos. When they fought, their interaction created everything. The Aedra came from their mixed blood. The Daedra came from Padomai's blood alone. But here's where it gets wild. Padomai didn't die when Anu beat him. He became something else. He became Sithis, the void itself. Not a god, not a being, but the concept of nothingness given form. Or maybe formlessness given consciousness. It's hard to describe. The void is described as existing before oblivion, before the Daedric realms, before anything. Nocturnal, who claims to be the oldest Daedric prince, says she existed before oblivion, that she came from the original void. Some texts say she is part of the void that somehow gained awareness. And here's the thing that should terrify everyone. The void can apparently consume Daedra. There's a legendary artifact called the Mace of Molagbal that was specifically designed to fight Daedra. The creator cursed it so that if any Daedric being tries to use its power, a void hole opens up and swallows them, banishes them to the void. The void is described as being beyond the reach of the Daedric princes. There are realms in the void that exist neither in Mundus nor Oblivion but between. Places the princes can't access, can't control, can't even perceive properly. Now think about what that means. The Daedric princes, who shape reality in their domains, who are immortal and unkillable in any conventional sense, there's a place they can't go, a force they can't control, something older than them that could potentially swallow them whole. Some of the Daedric princes have connections to this void. Namira, the prince of the ancient darkness, is associated with it. Mephala, according to some theories, has a special connection to Sithis. These princes might have knowledge of something that the others don't, something that existed before even they did. So we've talked about other princes, about mortal leverage, about cosmic forces. But let's get into the really interesting question. What are the Daedric princes actually limited by? First, there's the whole sphere thing. Each prince has a sphere of influence. Mehrunes Dagon is destruction. Hermeus Mora is knowledge. Nocturnal is the night and shadows. And according to one of the demi-princes, having a well-established sphere is actually what makes a prince a prince. But here's the catch. They're kind of locked into their spheres. Mehrunes Dagon can't suddenly become the prince of flowers and happiness. Sheogorath can't just decide to be orderly one day. Their spheres give them power, sure, but there are also limitations. They're bound by their own natures. Then there's the whole immortality thing. Yes, Daedric princes are immortal. Yes, they can't be permanently killed. But that doesn't mean they can't be defeated, banished, or humiliated. Sotha Sil studied the Daedra extensively and concluded that you can't truly destroy them. Their consciousness is tied to their planes of oblivion. Kill their physical form, they'll just reform. Destroy their realm, they'll rebuild it. They're like the ultimate cosmic cockroaches. But Sotha Sil had a theory. He believed the Daedra were basically gaps or errors in how the universe was constructed. The Daedra made mistakes when building reality, and those gaps allowed the Daedric princes to exist. He thought that if he could rebuild the entire Orbis, the whole cosmos, using his clockwork city as a template, he could eliminate those gaps. He could delete the Daedric princes from existence itself. Now, he died before he could try this, and the princes themselves didn't seem too worried about it. But the fact remains, a mortal theorized a way to end them, and his theory was sound enough that he devoted his existence to trying to make it work. There's another weakness that's even more practical: true names. All Daedra have a neonymic and a protonymic. The neonymic is like a nickname they can change whenever they want, but the protonymic is their true name, their real name. The name they cannot change, and if you know a Daedric prince's protonymic, you can do horrible things to them. We've seen this in action. In the game Battlespire, the player character managed to banish Myrun's Dagon by using both his neonymic and his protonymic. A mortal, armed with nothing but knowledge, sent a Daedric prince packing. This suggests something huge. Information is power against the princes. The right knowledge, the right words, the right ritual, and even a mortal could potentially control or banish them. No wonder Hermaeus Mora guards knowledge so jealously. No wonder the princes are secretive about their true natures. Let's circle back to the Cold Harbor Compact for a minute, because there's something deeply weird about it. 8 Daedric princes agreed to limit themselves. They agreed to stop directly manifesting on Nirn. They agreed to restrict their interference with mortals. Why would beings of near infinite power accept restrictions? The most common theory is that Sotha Sil threatened them. But with what? He was powerful, sure, but he was still ultimately mortal in origin. The tribunal's power came from the heart of Lorkhan, and that was a finite resource. What threat could he possibly make that would scare beings who've existed since before time? Some think he discovered their true names, all 8 of them. And he threatened to share that knowledge with the world if they didn't agree. Imagine if every mortal knew the protonymic of Molag Bal, the Prince of Domination could be summoned and bound by random people. His power would be worthless. Others think Sotha Sil offered something instead. The one hint we have is about Hermaeus Mora. Mora agreed to a pact with every mortal on Nirn not to interfere, and in exchange he got something he desperately wanted. What could the prince who knows everything possibly want? Maybe it was knowledge Sotha Sil created. New knowledge. Something that didn't exist before, couldn't be predicted, couldn't be obtained any other way. The one thing that would drive Hermaeus Mora mad with desire, a genuine surprise. Or maybe it was access to something. The Clockwork City exists outside normal reality in some ways. It's a realm of perfect, mechanical order. Maybe Sotha Sil offered the princes a way to exist outside their spheres, to experience something genuinely new. Whatever it was valuable enough that princes like Molag Bal and Myrun's Dagon agreed to restrictions. Beings who live for domination and destruction accepted limits on their power. Think about how huge that is. And when Myrun's Dagon broke the compact, he got absolutely destroyed. 2 members of the tribunal banished him and then sealed his entire realm off from Nirn. They demonstrated that the punishment for breaking the agreement was real and severe. This suggests something important. The Daedric princes respect force, or at least they respect credible threats. Sotha Sil had something, whether knowledge or power or leverage, that made them back down. And that means they can back down. They can be intimidated. They can be forced to negotiate. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the Daedra. The so-called good gods, who sacrificed themselves to create the mortal world. The Daedra gave up huge amounts of their power to create Mundus. They're now weak compared to the Daedra. Most of them can't even manifest physically anymore. They're like cosmic ghosts, bound to the world they created, barely able to interact with it. And yet, the Daedric princes can't just waltz into Nirn and take over. They've tried. Mehrunes Dagon tried during the Oblivion Crisis. Molag Bal tried during the plane meld in Elder Scrolls Online. Every single time, they failed. Why? What stops them? Part of it is the covenant with Akatosh. The Dragonfires protected the mortal realm. When they were lit, they created a barrier that kept the princes out. When they went out, all hell broke loose. Literally. But even beyond that, there's something about Nirn that the Daedra can't fully control. The Aedra poured their essence into creating this world. Their power is woven into its very fabric. On Nirn, even weakened Aedric power seems to trump Daedric power. We saw this at the end of Oblivion. Mehrunes Dagon manifested fully on Nirn, the Prince of Destruction in all his terrible glory. And then Martin Septim channeled Akatosh's power, became the avatar of the Dragon God, and absolutely destroyed Dagon, sent him running back to Oblivion with his tail between his legs. A single Aedric avatar, powered by a shattered amulet and a mortal sacrifice, defeated a Daedric prince at full power on the mortal plane. That tells us something huge. On Nirn, the Aedra still have the home field advantage. The Daedric princes know this. They know they can't just conquer the mortal world through brute force. That's why they work through intermediaries, through cults and champions and artifacts. They're powerful, but they're playing on someone else's turf, and they know it. Here's something that probably keeps the smarter princes awake at night. Mortals are unpredictable. Hermaeus Mora knows everything. He has infinite knowledge. His library contains every scrap of information that exists or ever will exist. And yet, mortals keep surprising him. They make choices he didn't predict. They find solutions he didn't foresee. This isn't just gameplay convenience. This is actual lore. The princes, for all their power, struggle with mortal unpredictability, were chaos factors in their carefully laid plans. Look at Jigalag. His whole thing was perfect order, perfect prediction. He knew everything that would happen before it happened, and yet the hero of Kuwatch defeated him. A mortal broke the curse that all the other Daedric princes together had created. Look at the Nerevarine, a mortal prophesied by Azura who toppled the tribunal and defeated Dagoth-Ur. Look at the last Dragonborn, who bested every Daedric prince they encountered and couldn't be permanently trapped even in Apocrypha, Hermaeus Mora's infinite library. Mortals have souls. Weird, complex, unpredictable souls that the princes don't fully understand. We're limited, finite, temporary, and somehow that makes us dangerous to beings of infinite power. We can change, we can grow, we can surprise, and maybe that's what really scares them. Not other princes, not ancient forces, not cosmic threats, but the tiny, insignificant mortals who keep defying them, who keep finding ways to win, who keep writing their own stories instead of following the script. Let me break down why this matters so much. The Daedric princes, they think in terms of eternity. They make plans that span eras. They see time as this vast canvas where they can paint whatever they want because they have forever to do it. But mortals, we've got maybe 100 years if we're lucky. So we make desperate choices. We take risks that make no sense from an immortal perspective. We burn bridges and bet everything on single moments because we don't have the luxury of infinite retries. And that desperation creates outcomes the princes never see coming. Because when you think you have forever, you can't understand someone who knows they have barely any time at all. The hero of Kuwatch mantled Sheogorath. Think about that. A mortal didn't just defeat a Daedric prince, they became one. They replaced Sheogorath so completely that reality itself accepted them as the mad god. That shouldn't be possible. Daedric princes are supposed to be eternal, unchangeable, unique. You can't just steal someone's identity, especially not when that identity is woven into the fabric of reality itself. Except a mortal did exactly that. They walked into the Shivering Isles, participated in Sheogorath's plan to break Jigalag's curse, and when the dust settled, they were Sheogorath. The original was free as Yigalag, and the mortal had taken his place. Mantling is this concept in Elder Scrolls lore, where you can become something by perfectly imitating it. Walk like them, talk like them, act like them long enough, and reality gets confused about which one is which. Eventually, reality just decides you are them, and the transformation is complete. A mortal used this to steal a prince's entire existence. If that happened once, it could happen again. Any prince could potentially be mantled by a sufficiently dedicated mortal. Your entire identity, your power, your realm, all of it could be taken by someone who knows how to walk in your footsteps. That's got to be terrifying, especially for princes who rely on specific patterns of behavior. Hircine always hunts, Hermaeus Mora always seeks knowledge, Mehrunes Dagon always destroys. If someone copied those behaviors perfectly, could they mantle those princes too? And it's not like the princes can just change how they act to avoid being mantled. Their spheres are their identity. Change too much, and they stop being themselves anyway. They're trapped by their own natures, vulnerable to anyone clever enough to exploit it. Then there's the Dragonborn. Let's talk about why the last Dragonborn specifically is probably the stuff of nightmares for Daedric princes. Dragonborn have dragon souls. They're mortals, sure, but they've got something extra. Something that makes them resistant to effects that would bind or control normal mortals. They can absorb dragon souls, learn the Thuum instantly, and they have this weird property where their souls seem to be more stable than regular mortal souls. Miraak, the first Dragonborn, became Hermaeus Mora's servant, but even Mora couldn't fully control him. Miraak spent thousands of years in Apocrypha, supposedly serving Mora, but he was really planning to escape and return to Tamriel. He almost succeeded too. The last Dragonborn enters Apocrypha multiple times, reads the Black Books, learns Mora's secrets, and when Mora tries to keep them there, tries to make them another servant like Miraak, they just leave. They defeat Miraak, absorb his soul, take his knowledge, and walk out of the infinite library like they're leaving a regular bookstore. Mora can't stop them, can't trap them, can't even seriously inconvenience them. For the Prince of Knowledge, who hoards information and controls access to it, having a mortal casually wander through his realm and take whatever they want must be infuriating. It proves that even his most secure domain isn't secure against someone with enough determination and a dragon soul. But the Dragonborn doesn't stop there. They collect artifacts from multiple princes. Mehrunes Razor, the Wabajak, Azura's Star, Volendrung, the Mace of Molag Bal, all of them. They complete Daedric quests and either take the rewards or refuse them at will. And here's the thing, refusing a Daedric prince's gift is an act of defiance. It says, I don't need your power. I don't owe you anything. Your bribe is meaningless to me. That's insulting to beings who are used to mortals scrambling for their favor. Some princes take it in stride. Others probably seethe about it for centuries. But all of them have to respect it, because what are they going to do? Force the Dragonborn to accept the gift? They've already proven they can enter and leave Daedric realms at will. Attacking them directly would be like inviting a dragon into your house and then insulting it. The Dragonborn also killed Alduin, the World Eater, the firstborn of Akatosh, who was supposed to end the current Kalpa and begin the next. An entity that even the Aedra couldn't permanently defeat, just delay, and the mortal just killed him, permanently, ate his soul, ended the ending of the world. If a mortal can kill something that was supposed to be unkillable, what does that say about the limits of Daedric immortality? Sure, the princes claim they can't truly die, but Alduin probably thought the same thing, and now he's gone. Every Daedric prince who knows about the Dragonborn has to be doing some mental calculations. Could this mortal kill us if they really tried? Could they find a way to permanently end a Daedric prince the same way they permanently ended Alduin? The smart money says no. The princes and dragons are different. Dragons are finite beings, even if they're powerful. Princes are their realms, their concepts made manifest. Killing them should require unmaking reality itself. But should require isn't the same as definitely requires. And the Dragonborn has already proven they can do things that shouldn't be possible. So maybe definitely can't is actually probably can't, which is very different when you're an immortal being who's gotten comfortable with invincibility. There's another category of mortal that princes have to worry about, those who achieve Kim. Kim is this really complex concept in Elder Scrolls lore. Basically, it's when someone realizes they're part of a dream, that all reality is the dream of the Godhead, and instead of disappearing from the realization, they assert I am and become real anyway. Achieving Kim gives you the power to rewrite reality. You become a lucid dreamer in the cosmic dream. You can change things just by willing them to change. Vivek achieved Kim. Talos achieved Kim. There might be others throughout history who've done it and kept quiet about it because announcing you have reality warping powers is a good way to make everyone nervous. For Daedric princes, someone with Kim is terrifying because they are playing by different rules. The princes are bound by their spheres, by their natures, by the structure of reality. Someone with Kim can potentially just rewrite those rules. Could someone with Kim delete a Daedric prince? Could they rewrite the cosmos so that, say, Mehrunes Dagon never existed? Or change Molag Bal's sphere so completely that he becomes something else? The lore doesn't give us clear answers, but the fact that it's even a possibility must keep some princes up at night. Imagine knowing that somewhere out there might be mortals who've achieved power that exceeds your own, who could, potentially, end your existence with a thought if they decided you were a problem worth solving. Vivek did some crazy things with his Kim powers. He fought Daedric princes and won. He held the moon above Vivek's city for centuries through sheer will. He rewrote his own history. If he'd wanted to, could he have erased the prince entirely? We'll never know because he apparently never tried. But the theoretical possibility exists, and for beings who are supposed to be eternal and unkillable, theoretical possibilities are the scariest kind of threat. Then there's the whole issue of what happens when mortals organize against the princes. Individually, mortals are no match for a Daedric prince. Even hero types, prophesied chosen ones, they might be able to defeat or banish a prince, but it's always a struggle. It's never easy. But what happens when mortals work together specifically to counter Daedric influence? The vigilance of Stendarr hunt Daedra worshippers. They're not the most effective organization ever, but they represent a principle: mortals refusing to bow to Daedric power and actively fighting against it. The Dawnguard fought vampires, who are Molag Bal's creation. They developed weapons and tactics specifically designed to counter vampiric advantages. They weren't just defending against vampires, they were fighting against one of Molag Bal's most successful interventions in the mortal world. The Mages Guild has protocols for dealing with Daedric incursions. The Sijic Order studies ways to close Oblivion gates and banish Daedra. Various knightly orders exist specifically to combat Daedric influence. Individually, none of these groups could threaten a prince, but together, across centuries, they represent a persistent resistance, an ongoing rejection of Daedric power, a cultural immune system that fights off Daedric infection wherever it appears. And it works, to an extent. The princes can't just do whatever they want in the mortal world. They have to work around mortal opposition. They have to be sneaky, use proxies, make bargains, because direct action brings direct resistance. For beings who are used to absolute power in their own realms, having to constantly maneuver around mortal resistance must be frustrating. It's like being a god, but only in your own house. Step outside, and suddenly you're just another player in the game, subject to all the rules everyone else follows. Next, let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture. What are the systemic weaknesses of being a Daedric prince? First, there's the sphere limitation we mentioned before. Each prince is locked into their sphere. That's not just a job description, it's their entire existence. Change the sphere and you're not that prince anymore. You're something else. This means princes can't adapt, they can't evolve, they can't grow beyond what they are. A prince of destruction can't decide to become constructive. A prince of knowledge can't choose ignorance. They're frozen in their roles, playing the same part for eternity. In a universe that's constantly changing, being unable to change is a weakness. Mortals adapt, civilizations rise and fall, magic systems evolve, but the princes stay the same. They're constants in a variable equation, which sounds stable until you realize it means they're predictable. And predictability can be exploited. Once you understand the prince's fear, you can predict their actions. Mehrunes Dagon will always eventually try to destroy things. Hermaeus Mora will always seek knowledge. Molag Bal will always try to dominate. Smart mortals use this. They bait princes into acting according to their natures, then use those predictable actions against them. It's like a cosmic version of reverse psychology, except instead of tricking your little brother, you're manipulating a god. Second, there's the worship dependency issue. Daedric princes claim they don't need mortal worship. They say they're powerful regardless of whether mortals acknowledge them or not. And to some extent, that's true. They won't disappear if everyone stops worshipping them, but worship gives them influence on Nirn. Worshippers provide eyes, ears, hands in the mortal world. They offer souls, serve as champions, spread the prince's influence. A prince without worshippers is isolated, cut off from the mortal realm they so desperately want to affect. Look at what happened to Jigalag, cursed, forgotten, barely mentioned in any texts. By the time of Oblivion, most people had never heard of him, and his power? Locked away, trapped in madness, unable to act on the mortal world except during the Grey March. Loss of worship equals loss of relevance equals loss of power in the places that matter. The princes know this. That's why they scheme for worshippers, why they offer artifacts and boons and make deals. They're competing for mortal attention, because mortal attention translates to mortal influence. Third, there's the fragmentation problem. Most princes have their power spread across multiple artifacts, servants, and domains. Mehrunes Dagon's power is in his razor, his deadlands, his Drimora servants. Hermaeus Mora's power is in his black books, Apocrypha itself, the knowledge he hoards. This distribution means a prince can lose pieces of their power. Mortals steal artifacts, servants rebel or get destroyed. Parts of their realms can be cut off or invaded. It's like having your money in 100 different bank accounts spread across the world. Sure, you're rich, but if someone starts robbing those accounts one by one, you might not notice immediately, and by the time you do, significant damage has been done. Molag Bal lost the Amulet of King's Power when the Dragonfires were re-established. Hermaeus Mora keeps losing black books to mortals who read them and refuse to return them. Princes constantly lose artifacts that mortals carry around and use for purposes the princes never intended. Each loss diminishes them slightly, not enough to destroy them, but enough to matter. And if enough pieces get taken, what's left? Fourth, there's the reality of the void. The void exists beyond the princes. It predates them, and things can return to the void, apparently. Nocturnal tried to use the void to consume all the other princes. That implies the void could consume them if the circumstances were right. The princes exist within reality, within the Arbis. But the void is outside all that. It's the nothing that surrounds everything, and nothing is very good at consuming things. If the void could swallow a prince, erase them completely, send them back to the primordial nothing they came from, that would be true death. Permanent, absolute. No reforming in your realm. No coming back. Just gone. The princes probably know this. They probably fear it in the same way mortals fear actual, permanent death. Because for all their talk of immortality, they're only immortal within the system. Outside the system, who knows what rules apply. Fifth, there's the Daedric advantage on Nirn. We've touched on this before, but it bears repeating. On Nirn, the mortal world, Daedric power seems to trump Daedric power when push comes to shove. The divines are weak compared to princes overall. They gave up too much power in creating the world, but on their world, in their domain, they still have home field advantage. Every time a prince has tried to fully manifest on Nirn, they've been beaten back. Mehrunes Dagon by the avatar of Akatosh, Molagbal by Meridia's forces and the Vestige. Over and over, Daedric invasions fail. Why? Because Nirn itself rejects them? Because the structure of the world is antithetical to Daedric existence? Because the sleeping Aedra still have enough power to enforce a no trespassing rule? Whatever the reason, it's a weakness, a huge weakness. The princes want to conquer, or corrupt, or control the mortal world, but they can't do it directly. They're stuck working through proxies, making deals, building influence slowly over centuries. That's not how gods are supposed to work. Gods should be able to just wave their hands and get what they want, but the princes can't. They're limited, constrained, frustrated, and they know it. Every failed invasion is a reminder that they're not as all-powerful as they'd like to be. Every banishment is proof that mortals can say no and make it stick. Every victory through proxies is an admission that they can't handle things directly. That's got to eat at them, especially the aggressive ones like Dagon and Baal. They're beings of almost infinite power in their own realms, but they can't even set foot in the mortal world without risking humiliation. Let's dig deeper into this true name thing, because it's honestly one of the most fascinating weaknesses the princes have. Let's dig deeper into this true name thing, because it's honestly one of the most fascinating and terrifying weaknesses the princes have. But the protonymic is different. It's their true name, their real name, the name that's woven into the fabric of their existence. It can't be changed. It can't be hidden completely. And if you know it, you have power over them. In Battlespire, the player character uses Mehrunes Dagon's protonymic to banish him, not kill him, but force him back to oblivion and bind him there. A mortal, armed with knowledge, defeated a Daedric prince of destruction. That means every prince has a kill switch, or at least a control switch. Buried in their nature is this one word, this one name, that gives others power over them, and they can't remove it, can't change it, can't protect it, except by keeping it secret. How paranoid would that make you, knowing that somewhere out there might be someone who knows your true name, someone who could use it to bind you, banish you, maybe even destroy you. The princes guard their protonymics obsessively. They kill people who learned them. They destroy texts that contain them. They go to insane lengths to keep them secret, but secrets have a way of getting out. Hermaeus Mora probably knows all the protonymics. He's the Prince of Knowledge, after all. If anyone has cataloged every prince's true name, it's him. That probably makes the other princes very nervous about Mora. They have to treat him carefully because he could potentially weaponize their own names against them. This also explains why the princes are so careful about making binding agreements. The Cold Harbor Compact wasn't just a gentleman's agreement. It was probably sealed with true names, with protonymics invoked to make the bargain binding. That's why breaking it had consequences. That's why Mehrunes Dagon got broken on the soil of Mournhold when he violated the terms. Sothasil must have learned at least some of the prince's true names to make that work. He must have discovered or been given access to information that gave him leverage over beings that should have been able to crush him like a bug. Think about how powerful that makes knowledge, not magical power, not divine strength, just information. The right word at the right time can bind a god. That's why Hermaeus Mora hoards knowledge so jealously. He's not just collecting for the sake of collecting. He's gathering power. Every secret learned is potential leverage. Every name discovered is a new tool. His library isn't just a library, it's an armory of information weapons. And it's why the other princes probably fear true knowledge more than physical strength. You can't fight knowledge with power. You can't stab information with a sword. You can only try to keep it secret, and secrets are famously hard to keep forever. Somewhere out there, in dusty tomes and forgotten rituals, in the memories of dead gods and the whispers of ancient spirits, the true names of the Daedric princes exist, and anyone who finds them gains the power to command immortals. That's the kind of thing that would keep you up at night if you were a Daedric prince. The knowledge that your greatest weakness is common knowledge that just hasn't been commonly discovered yet. Next, let's get philosophical for a minute. Are the Daedric princes actually omnipotent, all-powerful, gods in the truest sense? They're incredibly powerful, sure. Within their own realms, they have total control. They can reshape reality on a whim, create and destroy at will, exist for eternity without aging or dying. But they're not all-powerful. They can't create. That's a big one. The Aedra created Mundus by sacrificing part of themselves. The Daedra can shape, alter, imitate, but they can't truly create something from nothing. They're working with recycled chaotic creatia, reshaping what already exists. They can't escape their natures. A prince of destruction can't decide to become constructive. A prince of madness can't choose sanity. They're locked into their spheres like prison cells made of their own essence. They can't predict everything. They thought they understood mortals, but we keep proving them wrong. They thought Gigalag was controllable through the curse. He got free. They thought they could conquer Nirn. They failed. Every single time. They can't exist in certain places. The void seems to be beyond them. Some realms are described as existing outside their reach. There are corners of existence they simply can't access. And most importantly, they can be threatened, negotiated with, banished, and defeated. Not permanently, not easily, but it can be done. Sota Sil proved it. The hero of Kuwach proved it. Countless mortals throughout history have proved it. The Daedric princes present themselves as all-powerful, all-knowing, inevitable forces of nature. And maybe that's the scariest thing about them. They're good at maintaining that illusion. They want you to think they're unstoppable. They want you to feel insignificant in comparison. But the truth is more complex. They're powerful, yes. Ancient, yes. Dangerous, absolutely. But not gods in the sense of being beyond all limitation. They're more like cosmic entities with specific roles, specific powers, and specific weaknesses. Understanding this changes everything. It means resistance is possible. It means heroes can actually win. It means the fight isn't predetermined in the prince's favor, and the princes know this too. That's why they work so hard to maintain the illusion of omnipotence, why they throw their weight around, why they make such dramatic displays of power. They're trying to convince mortals that fighting back is hopeless, but it's not. Every time a hero defeats a prince, every time a mortal escapes from oblivion, every time someone refuses a Daedric bargain and walks away, the illusion cracks a little more. The princes aren't gods. They're powerful spirits with big egos and limited options. They want control they can't have. They crave worship they don't deserve. They fear mortality they claim to be immune to. They're more like us than they'd ever admit. Flawed, limited, afraid, just with bigger toys and longer lifespans. And once you realize that, they stop being terrifying forces of nature and start being opponents you can actually fight. Difficult opponents, sure. Dangerous opponents, absolutely. But opponents nonetheless. That's the ultimate weakness of the Daedric princes. Not their spheres or their names or their limitations. It's that they're not what they pretend to be. And deep down, they know it. Next, let's get into some of the weirder lore. There's this thing called the Dark Heart, and it's connected to both Lorkhan and the Void in ways that make my brain hurt. So Lorkhan is the trickster god who convinced the Aedra to create the mortal world. His heart was ripped out and thrown across Tamriel, where it landed in Red Mountain. That's the heart of Lorkhan, that the Tribunal used to become gods. But there's another heart, the Dark Heart. It exists in the Reach, and it's described as a gateway to the Void. Some sources say it's connected to Lorkhan, maybe even a piece of him. Others say it's something older, something from before creation. The Dark Heart has void energy. When awakened, it could create dark storms that absorb souls to fuel its magic. The Night Hollow clan of vampires used it to empower themselves and avoid needing blood. When it releases void stuff, it can twist mortals into shades and turn witches into void mothers. And here's the kicker. This dark heart exists in a place that's described as beyond the reach of the Daedric princes, a realm called Greyhaven, which exists outside normal reality. The Grey host tried to use it to sever their connection to Molag Bal and gain immortality like the Daedra, but free from any prince's control. Think about what that implies. There's a source of power that exists outside Daedric influence, a well of void energy that predates the princes themselves, and it can be used against them. Namira, the prince of ancient darkness, had some connection to this dark heart. So did Lorcan, apparently. This suggests that some entities understand the void better than others, that there's knowledge out there that could be used as leverage against the princes. The Khajiit believe Namira has a special relationship with Lorcan through this dark heart connection. They call her the Eldest Spirit, the same title they use for Nocturnal. These ancient, primordial forces that existed before modern reality have connections to something deeper, something that frightens even other princes. Now, let's think about what the void actually is. It's described as the nothing from which everything came, the primordial chaos before order, the absence that defines presence by its very lack. Sithis is identified with this void, and Sithis is described not as a being but as a force, the concept of change itself, the entropy that drives all transformation, not alive, not dead, just existing as pure potential for change. The Daedric princes came from Padumai's blood, and Padumai became Sithis when he merged with the void. So in a sense, the princes are children of the void. But they're also separate from it. They've taken form, gained identity, become something specific, and that specificity might be both their strength and their weakness. By becoming beings with identity, with spheres, with purpose, they've escaped the formless chaos of the void, but they've also made themselves vulnerable to it. Because the void doesn't have identity or sphere or purpose. It just is, or isn't, or both. Nocturnal claims to be part of the original void, that she came from the black blood of the dark heart of Lorcash. If that's true, then she has a connection to something that the other princes don't. She understands the void in a way they can't. Her attempt to achieve omnipresence using the Crystal Tower wasn't just ambition. It was an attempt to return to that original void state while maintaining her identity, to be everything and nothing simultaneously, to encompass all of reality while remaining herself. The other princes probably recognized what she was trying to do on some level, and it terrified them, because if Nocturnal succeeded, she wouldn't just be the most powerful prince. She'd be something beyond a prince, something closer to the void itself, with all the power that implies. The Dark Brotherhood worships Sithis. They believe they're sending souls to the void when they kill, and there's evidence that something actually happens. Souls claimed by Sithis don't go to the usual afterlife, they go somewhere else. Somewhere even the princes can't reach. That's another power the void has over the princes. It can take what's theirs. When someone kills in Sithis' name, when the ritual is properly performed, the victim's soul bypasses all the usual systems. Bypasses the prince's claims, bypasses the afterlife realms, goes straight to the void. Imagine being a prince who's made a bargain for someone's soul. You've made a deal, signed a contract, that soul is supposed to be yours when they die, and then a Dark Brotherhood assassin kills them and their soul just vanishes. Goes somewhere you can't follow, taken by something older and more primal than you. That's got to be frustrating and scary. It proves there are forces in the universe that can override Daedric claims. Forces that operate outside the systems the princes thought they controlled. Some scholars believe the void is where slain Daedra go to reconstitute before returning to oblivion. If that's true, then every Daedra, including the princes, has to pass through the void when they're killed. They experience, even briefly, a return to that primordial nothing. What does that feel like for a being of identity and purpose? To be dissolved into formlessness, to lose all sense of self, to become part of the undifferentiated nothing. Even if it's temporary, even if they reform afterwards, that moment of dissolution must be terrifying. It's like dying, except you're aware the whole time. You're experiencing ceasing to exist while still being aware that you're experiencing it. That's a special kind of nightmare. And if the void can claim Daedric essence temporarily, could it claim it permanently? If the conditions were right, if a prince was weakened enough, could they be dissolved back into the void completely? Could they fail to reform and just stay as undifferentiated chaos forever? There's no clear answer in the lore, but the possibility exists. And for beings who've spent eons building their identities, their realms, their power, the threat of losing all of that and returning to formless nothing must be existentially terrifying. The lore mentions something called a Mace of Molag Bal that can create void holes. If a Daedric being tries to use its power, a hole opens up and swallows them, banishing them to the void. The fact that such a weapon exists, that it was specifically designed to use the void as a weapon against Daedra, proves that beings understand this vulnerability. The princes must know about weapons like this. They must know there are ways to weaponize the void against them. Every time they make a move, every time they manifest or act, they are risking being sent to the nothing that spawned them. That's why they're so cautious about direct action. Why they work through proxies, why they make deals instead of just staking what they want. Because the mortal world has weapons and knowledge that can hurt them. And some of those weapons are connected to something even older and scarier than they are. We need to talk about Lorkhan because his relationship with the Daedric princes is complicated and revealing. Lorkhan convinced the Daedra to create the mortal world. He's called the trickster, the doom drum, the dead god. Different cultures see him differently. The elves hate him for tricking their gods. The humans revere him for creating their world. But what did the Daedric princes think of him? According to some sources, Lorkhan was Padomaic, born from chaos, like the Daedra. But he wasn't a Daedric prince. He was something else, something that didn't fit neatly into either category. Some accounts say Sithis created Lorkhan specifically to destroy the Daedra's creation. That Lorkhan's whole purpose was to be a saboteur, a wrench in the cosmic machinery. Others say Lorkhan genuinely wanted to create something new and beautiful. Either way, what he did was unprecedented. He convinced gods to sacrifice themselves. He created a new category of existence, a place where change was possible, where time flowed, where things could live and die and be reborn as something different. The Daedric princes refused to participate. They saw the creation of Mundus as a trap, a waste of power. They chose to keep their essence whole and create their own realms instead. But they're obsessed with Mundus anyway. They can't stop interfering with it. They make deals with mortals, send artifacts, spawn cults, orchestrate invasions. Why? Maybe because Lorkhan succeeded where they wouldn't even try. He created something genuinely new, something that hadn't existed before, something the Daedra, for all their power, can't create. The princes can shape chaotic creation into realms. They can create Daedra to serve them. But they can't create life. They can't make things that grow and change independently. They can't make souls that have genuine free will. Mundus has all of that. Mortals live and love and die and choose their own paths. There's something in the mortal world that doesn't exist in Oblivion. Something the Daedra can imitate but never truly replicate. And maybe that bothers them. Maybe they're jealous of what Lorkhan accomplished. Maybe they're afraid of what it means that a non-prince could create something they can't. There's also the question of Lorkhan's heart. The heart stayed in Nirn, beating, maintaining reality. The Dwemer tried to use it and disappeared. The Tribunal used it and became gods for thousands of years. Dagoth-Ur used it and nearly unmade reality. All that power, all that potential, and it came from Lorkhan. Not from an Daedra, not from a Daedra, but from this weird in-between entity that neither side fully claimed or understood. What if Lorkhan was more powerful than the princes? What if he chose self-sacrifice, not out of necessity, but out of strategy? What if his death was actually a power move, a way of seeding reality with something the princes couldn't counter? His heart survived his death. His influence survived his death. In some accounts, his spirit survived his death. The Nords call him Shor and say he still watches over them. The Khajiit call him Lorkaj and say his heart is the dark heart that connects to the void. If Lorkhan could survive death and continue influencing reality, what does that say about the limits of existence in the Elder Scrolls universe? The princes claim they're unkillable, but they don't really die. They disperse and reform. That's different from dying and continuing to exist anyway. Lorkhan might represent something the princes can't understand or replicate, a sacrifice that creates more than it destroys, a death that empowers rather than ends. A transformation that transcends the binary of alive and not alive, and if the princes don't understand it, they probably fear it. Fear of the unknown is universal, even among cosmic entities. Especially among cosmic entities who are used to knowing everything about their domain. Some texts suggest Boethia was in love with Lorkhan, that the Prince of Plots saw something in the trickster that no one else did. If that's true, it raises interesting questions. Can Daedric princes love? Can they form attachments that go beyond sphere and purpose? And if Boethia loved Lorkhan, how did they feel about his death? About his sacrifice? About his lingering influence on reality? Maybe Boethia's hatred of the Aedra isn't just philosophical. Maybe it's personal. Maybe the Prince of Plots blames the Aedra for what happened to Lorkhan and has been seeking revenge ever since. That would explain Boethia's role in Dunmer history. Leading the Chimer away from Aedric worship, consuming Trinimac to send a message, supporting the overthrow of authority and the unlawful change of power structures. All of it could be part of a long-term plot against the Aedra for what they did to Lorkhan. If that's true, then at least one Daedric prince is motivated by something other than sphere and nature. Motivated by emotion, by loss, by revenge. That's very mortal of them. And maybe that's why Boethia is one of the more dangerous princes. Because emotions like that can drive you to do things pure, sphere motivation wouldn't. The princes who have connections to Lorkhan, whether through the Dark Heart or through more esoteric links, they might understand something the others don't. They might have insight into the nature of sacrifice, creation, and transformation that makes them more adaptable or more dangerous than their peers. And the princes without those connections? They're probably both curious and afraid. Curious about what Lorkhan knew or understood. Afraid that they're missing something important. Afraid that their refusal to participate in Mundus's creation was actually a mistake that cost them understanding they can never reclaim. Here's something that gets to the heart of why the Daedric princes might be afraid. They can't truly change, but reality around them does. The princes have existed since before recorded time. They've watched civilizations rise and fall. They've seen magic systems come and go. They've witnessed the birth and death of entire races. And through it all, they've stayed essentially the same. Mehrunes Dagon was destruction when he started. He's still destruction now. He'll be destruction 1,000,000 years from now. Same with all the others. They're locked into their roles like actors who can never leave the stage, never take off the costume, never stop performing the same part over and over again. At first, that might seem like strength, consistency, reliability, eternal purpose, but over eons it starts looking more like a prison. The world changes around them. Mortals invent new ways of thinking, new philosophies, new magic. The Aedra's influence waxes and wanes. Towers rise and fall. Reality gets rewritten by Kims and dragon breaks and other cosmic events. And the princes just watch, unable to adapt, unable to evolve, unable to become something new. Meanwhile, mortals have this amazing ability. We can change, we can grow, we can learn from mistakes and become better or worse. We can choose to be different tomorrow than we were today. That's terrifying to a being who literally cannot make that choice. Imagine living for eternity, knowing you'll never change, never grow, never become anything other than what you are right now. Every experience just reinforces what you already are. Every action just fulfills your nature. There's no growth, no development, no journey, just existence as a fixed point in an ever-changing universe. That's a form of death, in a way. Not physical death, but death of potential, death of possibility. You're alive, but you're also finished. Complete, with no room for becoming anything more. Some princes seem to have made peace with this. Periate, for example, is fine being the taskmaster. He likes order in his domain. He's content with his role. But others, you can see the frustration. Mehrunes Dagon keeps trying the same thing over and over. Invasion, destruction, conquest. It never works, but he keeps doing it. Why? Because it's all he can do. His sphere won't let him try diplomacy or subtlety or patience. He's locked into being destruction incarnate, so he destroys. Even when it doesn't work, even when it backfires. Because what else can he be? Sheogorath's madness might actually be a blessing in disguise. If you're the Prince of Chaos and Unpredictability, at least you get variety. You're not stuck repeating the same patterns. Madness gives you permission to do different things, even if they don't make sense. That's more freedom than most princes have. Maybe that's why the other princes feared Jigalak so much. Not just because he was powerful, but because his perfect order threatened to impose eternal stasis on everything. If Jigalak won, if perfect order spread across all of Oblivion, change would stop. Everything would be locked into predictable patterns forever. For the other princes, that would be a nightmare even worse than the one they're already living. At least now they can interfere with Mundus. At least there's some unpredictability in mortal affairs. But under Jigalak's rule, everything would be known, predicted, controlled. The universe would become a clockwork mechanism where even the princes were just cogs. And yet, cursing Jigalak into Sheogorath created an even bigger problem. Now there's a prince who embodies the opposite of everything they feared. A prince who changes constantly, who can be predicted, who does things that make no sense even by Daedric standards. They traded the terror of perfect order for the chaos of perfect madness. And chaos, it turns out, is worse, because you can plan for order, you can predict it, you can work within its rules. But madness breaks all the rules. Madness creates new rules. Madness is change incarnate, which is exactly what the princes can't handle. Now that Jigalak is free and Sheogorath is a separate entity, formerly the hero of Kuach, both forms exist simultaneously. Order and chaos, working in the same reality. That's gotta be a nightmare for the other princes. They're caught between two extremes, both of which threaten their comfortable existence. Jigalak might try to impose order again, might succeed this time since there's no curse to stop him. And Sheogorath? The new Sheogorath is a former mortal who mantled a Daedric prince. They've proven that princes can be replaced. That opens up possibilities no prince wants to think about. What if other mortals try mantling? What if there's a systematic effort to replace all the princes with mortal-originated entities? The princes would still exist, technically, but they'd all be puppets worn by mortal souls. Changed from within, transformed without being destroyed. That's the ultimate fear for a being that can't change. Being changed by something else. Being overwritten. Having your identity stolen and replaced while your sphere continues existing with someone else at the helm, and there's nothing they could do to stop it. Mantling works through imitation, through becoming so similar to something that reality gets confused. How do you defend against that? By changing your patterns, but they can't change by stopping mortals from imitating you, but their spheres demand they interact with mortals. They're vulnerable to the very thing they can't do themselves. That's poetry. Dark poetry, but poetry nonetheless. Let's talk about Daedric artifacts, because they represent another significant weakness. Every prince has artifacts, powerful items imbued with their essence. Mehrunes' razor, Volendrung, the Wabajak, Azura Star. These aren't just magical items. They're fragments of the princes themselves, pieces of their power manifest in physical form, and mortals steal them, constantly, all the time. It's basically a hobby for heroes. Why do the princes keep making them, then? Why not keep their power consolidated instead of spreading it across the mortal world in easily stolen trinkets? Because they need influence. An artifact in the hands of a mortal champion does things the prince can't do directly. It spreads their worship, it creates stories, it makes mortals think about and fear the prince who created it. But it's a double-edged sword. The more artifacts you distribute, the more power you've given away, the more you've made yourself vulnerable to theft, loss, or misuse. Some princes are better about this than others. Hermaeus Mora's black books return to Apocrypha eventually. They're not really artifacts you can keep permanently. They're more like loans. But most Daedric artifacts can be held indefinitely, passed down through generations, lost in dungeons, forgotten in treasure hoards, each one representing a permanent decrease in the prince's total available power. It's like having your net worth split across thousands of items scattered randomly around the world. Sure, you're still rich, but you can't actually access most of your wealth, and anyone who finds one of those items can use it against you. There's no evidence that destroying a Daedric artifact kills the associated prince, but it probably hurts. If the artifact is truly part of their essence, destroying it might be like cutting off a finger, painful, diminishing, leaving you less than you were before. Some artifacts have minds of their own. The skull of corruption wants to corrupt. The ebony blade wants blood. They're not just objects. They're splinters of the prince's consciousness, acting independently based on their nature. That's got to be weird. Having pieces of yourself scattered across the world, each one making decisions without your input, each one representing you but not under your control. It's like having clones who all think they're you and act on what they believe you'd want, even when you'd actually want something different. And sometimes, mortals destroy artifacts, or purify them, or change them. The mace of Molagbal has been cleansed in various timelines. Myrun's razor has been broken and reforged. These artifacts aren't immutable. They can be changed, which means the piece of the prince's essence within them can be changed. If you can change the artifact, can you change the prince? If someone purified every single artifact of Molagbal, removing all the corruption and evil from them, would Molagbal himself change? Would his sphere be affected? Probably not. The sphere is too big to be affected by something as small as artifacts, but the question itself is scary. The possibility that you could be altered from outside, changed by what happens to your extensions in the mortal world, that's vulnerability the princes probably don't like thinking about. So, after all this analysis, all this deep diving into lore and implications, what's the ultimate fear of the Daedric princes? It's not any single thing. It's not Jigalag or Cities or mortals or the void or true names. It's all of them together. It's the accumulation of threats and vulnerabilities that add up to something they can't ignore. The princes are used to being top of the food chain, apex predators, the most powerful things in existence. And slowly, era by era, that position is being challenged. Mortals are getting stronger. The Nerevarine is still out there somewhere, immortal and beyond the prince's reach. The hero of Kuwach became Sheogorath. The last Dragonborn has power that makes even Hermaeus Mora cautious. Each generation seems to produce heroes who push boundaries further. Knowledge is spreading. The Psijic Order studies ways to counter Daedric influence. The Mages Guild researches oblivion. Universities and libraries collect information that used to be forbidden. Every book written, every secret discovered is potential ammunition against the princes. Mortals are organizing. Orders of knights fight Daedric cults. Churches preach against Daedra worship. Governments ban Daedric shrines. There's institutional resistance now, not just individual heroes. The societal immune system is getting stronger. Reality itself is changing. Dragon breaks, Kims, the towers, cosmic events that reshape existence. Each one creates new rules the princes didn't write and don't fully understand. Their power is constant, but the universe it operates in keeps shifting. And eventually, maybe inevitably, someone's going to figure out how to actually destroy a Daedric prince, not banish them. Not temporarily defeat them, actually end them permanently. Maybe it'll involve their true name, maybe it'll require unmaking their sphere. Maybe someone will finish Sotasil's work and rebuild reality without the flaws that let princes exist. Maybe a mortal with Kim will decide to edit them out of the story. However it happens, the princes know it's possible. They have to know, because they've seen too much, witnessed too many impossible things. Watched mortals do things that shouldn't be possible too many times to believe in absolute security anymore. That's what truly scares them. Not present danger, but future possibility. The knowledge that someday, somehow, someone might figure out how to make gods bleed, how to make immortals mortal, how to make the eternal finally, actually end. And when that day comes, all their power, all their spheres, all their machinations will mean nothing. Because someone will have discovered the delete button, and the Daedric princes will learn what actual permanent death feels like. That day might be tomorrow, might be 1,000,000 years from now, might never come at all. But the possibility exists, and for beings used to certainty, possibility is the scariest thing there is. Next, let me blow your mind with something Sotasil believed. He thought the Daedric princes were mistakes, literally errors in the cosmic code. His theory went like this. When the Aedra created Mundus, they made errors, gaps in the structure of reality, and these gaps allowed certain entities to exist that shouldn't have. The Daedric princes were basically cosmic bugs that crawled into the holes in creation. Sotasil spent his existence building the Clockwork City, trying to create a perfect mechanical reality with no errors, no gaps. He believed that if he could use his city as a template to rebuild the entire Orbis, he could eliminate those gaps, and if the gaps disappeared, the Daedric princes would cease to exist. Now, Sotasil never got to test this theory. Almalexia killed him before he could finish his work. But think about the implications. A mortal god theorized a way to delete the Daedric princes from existence entirely, to unmake them by fixing the cosmic mistakes that allowed them to exist. But what if Sotasil was right? What if the Daedric princes aren't eternal, unchangeable forces of nature? What if they're just parasites feeding on flaws in reality? What if someone smarter, more capable, could actually find a way to end them? That's a terrifying thought, especially if you're a Daedric prince who spent eons believing you're unkillable. Next, let's talk about how the princes fear each other too. And when you dig into their relationships, you realize their politics make Game of Thrones look like a friendly family dinner. Let's start with the big one, Molagbal and Boethia. These two have hated each other since before the concept of hate was even invented. We're talking primordial, existential loathing here. Molagbal is the prince of domination, the king of rape, the one who wants to enslave every soul in existence. Boethia is the prince of plots, the master manipulator who values freedom through strength and cunning. You can see why they'd clash. One wants absolute control, the other wants to overthrow all control. It's like matching fire and gasoline, except both the fire and gasoline have existed since the dawn of time and have infinite power to make each other miserable. In Morrowind, the Dunmer considered Molagbal one of the four corners of the House of Troubles, the worst enemies of their people, and Boethia, one of the good Daedra, the anticipation of Almalexia. The Dunmer literally built their entire religious structure around this rivalry. That's how deep this goes. The two princes don't just dislike each other. They actively work against each other's interests. When one gains power, the other schemes to undermine it. When one makes a move on the mortal world, the other counters. It's an eternal chess game where the pieces are souls and the board is all of reality. And here's the thing, they're evenly matched. Neither can permanently defeat the other. Neither can gain enough of an advantage to end the rivalry. So it continues, era after era, with no end in sight. That's got to be frustrating when you're an immortal being used to getting what you want. Then there's Molag Bal and Meridia. Now this is an interesting one because on the surface, you'd think a Prince of Domination wouldn't care much about a Prince of Life Energy. But Meridia has a thing about the undead. She absolutely hates them. They disrupt the flow of life, they corrupt the natural order, and she wants them all destroyed. Guess who created vampirism? That's right, Molag Bal. He literally invented vampires. The first vampire, according to lore, was created when Molag Bal violated a priestess. Yeah, he's that kind of evil. And every vampire since then carries his curse, his corruption. Meridia sees this as a personal insult, an abomination against everything she stands for. So when Molag Bal gave a weapon to the elite city of Abagarlas, Meridia commanded her knights from Delodil to invade. The resulting conflict got so intense that Molag Bal destroyed the entire city rather than let Meridia claim it. Think about that. A Daedric prince chose scorched earth over conceding ground to another prince. That's not just competition, that's deep-seated hatred. Boethia and Trinimac, well, that's a whole other level of messed up. Trinimac was one of the strongest of the Aedra. A warrior god, champion of the elves, powerful beyond measure. He stood against Lorkhan. He was respected, feared, worshipped. Boethia decided to utterly destroy him. And I don't mean kill him, I mean obliterate everything he was and remake him into a mockery of his former self. The lore says Boethia consumed Trinimac, ate him, literally ingested a god, and then excreted the remains. Those remains became Malakath, the prince of outcasts, the spurned, the ostracized. Everything Trinimac stood for, strength and honor and pride, was twisted into resentment and vengeance and bitterness. His followers, the proud Aldmer, became the orcs, despised and hunted across Tamriel, and Boethia did this, according to some accounts, because Trinimac spoke against Lorkhan, because he tried to stop the Chimer from following Boethia and the other Daedra. It was a warning to the Aedra, stay out of Daedric business or end up like Trinimac. But here's where it gets really interesting. Malakath, despite being transformed into a Daedric prince, despite having power that rivals the other princes, isn't fully accepted by them. They don't see him as a true prince. He's an outsider among outsiders, which is perfect for his sphere, but also incredibly isolating. Even Azura, who's considered one of the nicer princes, lists Malakath among the 8 strongest princes. But she also treats him with a kind of distant respect, rather than the acknowledgement you'd give a peer. It's like he's powerful enough to demand recognition, but fundamentally different enough that he'll never truly fit in. Malakath himself seems to have internalized this. He has no love for any other prince. He doesn't play their games. He doesn't seek their alliances. He just endures, protecting his orcs, seeking vengeance against those who slight him, existing in bitter solitude. That's a special kind of tragic. To be transformed from one of the greatest gods into a Daedric prince, to gain near infinite power, and to find that power means nothing because you'll never truly belong anywhere ever again. Boethia created a prince who knows what it's like to be rejected by everyone, including other princes. Now let's talk about the weird one, Sheogorath, the mad god, the unpredictable wild card in Daedric politics. The lore tells us Sheogorath has defeated 4 other Daedric princes in direct conflicts. 4. That's more than any other prince can claim. And we're not talking about sneaky victories or political wins. We're talking about actual direct confrontation where Sheogorath came out on top. How does a prince of madness beat other princes? Simple. You can't predict madness. You can't plan for it. You can't counter it with logic or strategy or power. Mehrunes Dagon is destruction. You can predict destruction. It's straightforward. It breaks things. Hermaeus Mora is knowledge. You can predict knowledge seeking. It's methodical, acquisitive, ordered. But madness? Madness does things that make no sense. Madness zigged when you thought it would zag, then zigged again, then turned into a wheel of cheese. The other princes regard Sheogorath with what can only be called nervous respect. They don't underestimate him. They don't dismiss him, because they've seen what happens when you do that. And here's the kicker. For most of history, Sheogorath was actually Yigalag, forced into madness by a curse. The most powerful prince of order, trapped as the most chaotic force in oblivion. The curse was supposed to contain his power, but instead it created something even more dangerous, a being with the power of perfect order combined with the unpredictability of perfect chaos. The other princes thought they were solving a problem when they cursed Yigalag, but they created a new one. They made him unkillable by making him unknowable. They made him more dangerous by making him mad. And now that Yigalag is free again, now that he's wandering oblivion in his true form, what do you think the other princes are feeling? Relief that the mad god is less unpredictable? Or terror that the prince of order is gathering power again? Some of them probably don't know what's scarier, the chaos they created or the order they feared in the first place. Let's talk about Nocturnal for a minute, because she's weird in ways that might explain a lot about Daedric fear. Nocturnal claims to be the Urdra, the eldest and most powerful of all Daedric princes. Now, lots of princes make big claims about themselves. Hermaeus Mora says he's elder than time. Namira gets called the eldest spirit. But Nocturnal's claim is different because other princes seem to actually acknowledge it. Sota Sil, who studied the Daedra more than almost any other mortal, called her the Urdra. The Sijic Order, the oldest and wisest magical organization in Tamriel, uses that title for her. The Imperial Geographical Society claims nearly all the princes recognize her claim. Why would the other princes acknowledge her supremacy if she wasn't actually supreme in some way? The answer might be in what she represents. Nocturnal isn't just darkness and night. She claims to have existed before oblivion itself, before the realms of the Daedric princes were created. She says she's part of the original void, the primal nothingness that existed before creation. That would explain why the other princes are cautious around her, not because she's more powerful in a direct fight, but because she might have knowledge they don't. She might understand things about the nature of oblivion and the void that they can't comprehend. During the events of Esso's Somerset chapter, Nocturnal tried to use the Crystal Tower to achieve omnipresence across all of reality. Her plan was to drain Nirn's life force, invade every realm of oblivion simultaneously, absorb the power of all the other princes, and basically become infinite. Think about the ambition there. She wasn't trying to conquer one plane or dominate one sphere. She was trying to consume all the princes and become everything. And her plan would have worked if Sothasil and the Vestige hadn't stopped her. The other princes must have been terrified. Imagine realizing one of your peers was moments away from eating your soul and your entire realm of existence, and she almost pulled it off. After that failed, Sothasil made an interesting comment. He said Nocturnal would probably wait centuries before trying again, or maybe days, because she's chaotic and unpredictable in her own way. The other princes have to live with the knowledge that Nocturnal might try again at any moment, and next time she might succeed. That's a unique kind of fear. Not fear of immediate danger, but fear of potential. Fear of the ambitious predator that tried to eat you once and is definitely going to try again. Next, let's talk about Hermaeus Mora, the infinite library, the keeper of forbidden knowledge, the thing that looks like a mass of tentacles and eyes having a bad day. Hermaeus Mora knows things, all things. Every scrap of knowledge that exists or could exist is somewhere in Apocrypha, his infinite library. He can answer any question, solve any puzzle. He's the ultimate know-it-all, except he actually does know it all. So what could Hermaeus Mora possibly fear? The answer is simple and terrifying: ignorance. Not his own ignorance, he doesn't have any, but the existence of things he cannot know, impossibilities, paradoxes, the unknowable. When Sotha Sil made the Cold Harbor Compact, Hermaeus Mora apparently received something he desperately wanted, something so valuable he agreed to a pact with every mortal on Nirn not to interfere with the mortal realm. What could make the prince who knows everything make that kind of deal? New knowledge, true novelty, something that didn't exist in his library because it hadn't existed anywhere, period. Think about what it must be like to know everything. Every story ends the way you predicted. Every mystery has an answer you already know. Every surprise isn't surprising. Existence becomes a book you've read infinite times. The ultimate curse of omniscience is boredom. So, when Sotha Sil offered genuine novelty, something even Hermaeus Mora couldn't predict or deduce or find in his infinite archives, the Prince of Knowledge jumped at it. He traded power and freedom for the one thing he actually wanted: surprise. But there's another kind of fear lurking in Hermaeus Mora's realm. Fear of what forbidden knowledge can do. See, Mora hoards knowledge, but he also understands that knowledge is power. Every secret he keeps is potential power for whoever learns it, and some of that knowledge could be used against him. Protonymics, true names, rituals of binding, ways to close off Apocrypha, ways to destroy a Daedric prince. All of that information exists somewhere in his library. He knows it exists, he knows where it is. And he spends eternity making sure nobody else can access it. That's a paranoid existence. Guarding an infinite library of infinite secrets, knowing that somewhere in there is the key to your own destruction. And then mortals keep showing up and taking his knowledge anyway. The Dragonborn wanders through Apocrypha, reads the Black Books, learns secrets Mora didn't want to share. Other heroes do the same. Time and again, mortals access forbidden lore despite all of Mora's precautions. He can't even kill them permanently because they keep coming back or escaping or finding loopholes. The Dragonborn, especially, proved impossible to trap. Mora tried to keep them in Apocrypha forever, and they just walked out, left, said no thanks to the infinite library, and went home. For a being whose power comes from controlling knowledge, having mortals casually defy him and steal his secrets must be maddening. It proves that even omniscience has limits. Even knowing everything isn't enough to control everything. That's a weakness the other princes surely notice. If Hermaeus Mora can't even keep mortals out of his own realm, what does that say about the limits of Daedric power? Mehrunes Dagon is interesting because unlike most princes, he might not have always been a prince at all. According to some obscure texts, Dagon was created or transformed by Alduin, the World Eater. He was cursed into his current role as Prince of Destruction. If that's true, then Dagon isn't a primordial being like the others. He's something that was made into a prince against his will or knowledge. Now, whether that's actually true or just myth, it raises an interesting question. What if you're a Daedric prince who didn't choose to be one? What if your entire existence, your sphere, your purpose were all forced on you? Dagon embodies destruction. He exists to break things, to tear down, to end. That's his nature. But is it a nature he chose, or a role he was assigned? And if it's the latter, does he resent it? Does he fear being trapped in a purpose he never wanted? The thing about Dagon is he's remarkably persistent. He's tried to invade Mundus more than almost any other prince. He destroyed Mournhold. He tried to conquer the Battle Spire. He orchestrated the entire Oblivion Crisis. Time and again, he throws himself at the mortal world, and time and again, he gets beaten back. Why keep trying? Why not give up after the 100th failure? That's horrifying if you think about it, to be so trapped in your own nature that you can't even choose to stop. To have tried and failed so many times that success seems impossible, but failure to try means erasing yourself. That's a special kind of prison. And Dagon knows what happens when princes are forced into new forms. He's seen what the others did to Yiggalag. He's seen Trinimac become Malakath. He knows that princes can be transformed, reshaped, destroyed, and remade as something else. Does he fear ending up like them? Does he fear that if he fails enough times, the other princes, or the Aedra, or fate itself, will decide he needs to be remade into something else, something that isn't destruction incarnate? When he manifested at the end of the Oblivion Crisis, when Martin Septim channeled Akatosh and became that massive dragon avatar, Dagon fought hard, really hard. He wasn't just trying to win, he was fighting for his existence, and he lost. The avatar shattered him, broke him, sent him screaming back to the Deadlands. That wasn't just a defeat, that was a demonstration that even at full power, even fully manifested on Mundus, he could be beaten by someone channeling an Daedric god. Every prince who watched that happen learned a valuable lesson. Manifest on Mundus, and you can die. Not permanently, but painfully, publicly, in a way that proves you're not as invincible as you pretend. Dagon lived through his worst fear, complete, total, undeniable defeat witnessed by everyone, and he has to carry that knowledge forever. Every time he schemes, every time he plans another invasion, he knows how it could end. He's felt it already. That kind of trauma doesn't go away just because you're immortal. If anything, it gets worse. You can't forget, you can't move on. You have eternity to remember your humiliation. Now let's talk about Mephala, because this prince is playing a different game than everyone else. Mephala is called the web spinner, the prince of lies, secrets, and murder. But what's really interesting is how she operates. While other princes gather cults and demand worship, Mephala weaves, she manipulates. She creates connections and dependencies that other people don't even realize exist. The Morag Tong, the ancient Dunmer Assassins Guild, was her creation. She guided them, shaped them, used them to influence Dunmer society for thousands of years. When the Morag Tong fell and the Dark Brotherhood rose, guess who had fingers in that pie too? Some people think the Night Mother might actually be Mephala, or connected to Mephala. The Dark Brotherhood worships cities, sure, but Mephala is associated with cities in ways other princes aren't. She might have connections to forces older and darker than most princes dare touch. But here's where it gets interesting. Mephala doesn't seem to want direct power. She doesn't try to invade Mundus. She doesn't make big dramatic moves like Dagon or Baal. She just weaves her web, watches mortals dance, and quietly influences things from the shadows. Why? What's she afraid of? Maybe exposure. Maybe Mephala understands that the princes who draw the most attention are the ones who face the most opposition. Mehrunes Dagon makes big invasions and gets stopped by avatars of Akatosh. Molag Bal tries the Plan Meld and gets beaten by the Vestige and Meridius forces. The loud princes attract heroes and enemies. But a quiet prince who works through proxies, who never shows her full hand, who makes sure nobody knows the full extent of her plans, that prince can accomplish more while facing less resistance. Mephala might fear irrelevance less than exposure. She'd rather be underestimated and effective than recognized and opposed. That's actually smart when you think about it. Let the other princes fight for dominance and glory. Let them draw attention and make enemies. Meanwhile, she's slowly rewriting reality, one thread at a time. The other princes probably know this. They know Mephala is dangerous, but they don't know how dangerous because they don't know all her plans. That's the perfect position for her, feared enough to be respected, mysterious enough to be unpredictable. And it must drive princes like Hermaeus Mora mad. He knows everything, or claims to, but can he really track all of Mephala's plots, all her schemes, every thread in her web? Or are there gaps in his knowledge, blind spots created by the web spinner's skill at concealment? If Mephala can hide things from the Prince of Knowledge, what does that mean about the limits of knowing everything? Next, let's look at her scene. He's the Daedric Prince of the Hunt, the father of man-beasts, the prince who created lycanthropy and who loves nothing more than a good chase. On the surface, her scene seems pretty straightforward. he likes hunting. He makes werewolves and wereboars and weresharks to make hunting more interesting. He runs the hunting grounds, an endless realm of forests and prey and predators. Simple, right? But there's something darker underneath. Something that suggests Hircine might fear the thing he loves most. See, a hunt needs two things, a hunter and prey, and Hircine has been both. The lore mentions times when Hircine himself becomes the hunted, when mortals turn his own game around on him, and he apparently loves it. Why would a prince of infinite power enjoy being hunted? Why would he create scenarios where he could lose? Maybe because he's afraid of certainty, of predictability, of knowing how every hunt ends before it begins. If Hircine always wins, always catches his prey, always comes out on top, then the hunt becomes meaningless. It's not a challenge anymore, it's just going through motions. And for a being who lives for the thrill of the chase, meaninglessness is death. This isn't just good sportsmanship, this is existential need. Hircine needs to not know how things will end. He needs genuine uncertainty. Without it, his entire existence becomes hollow. That's a weird kind of fear. Fear of certainty. Fear of guaranteed victory. Most beings would kill for that security. But for Hircine, it's a curse worse than oblivion. And there's another layer to this. Lycanthropy is a disease, a curse, a gift, depending on who you ask. But it's also a connection to Hircine. Every werewolf, every werebear, every cursed beast person is tied to him in some way. When they die, where do their souls go? Some to Hircine's hunting grounds, but not all. And definitely not the ones who hate their curse, who resent being made into monsters. Hircine has created millions of beings who have every reason to hate him, every person turned against their will, every victim of a werewolf attack, every family destroyed by lycanthropy. They all have cause for vengeance. Most princes don't care about creating enemies. But Hircine has created a specific kind of enemy, prey that learned to hunt, victims who became predators. And every single one of them knows his name, knows his nature, carries his curse in their blood. That's an army of potential threats, scattered across time and space, but united by a common connection to the Hunt Prince. One day, they might organize. They might decide to turn Hircine's own game against him on a scale he can't handle. And you know what? He'd probably love it. The greatest hunt of all. Hircine hunted by everyone he ever made into a hunter. That's poetic. That's terrifying. And that's exactly the kind of thing that would appeal to a prince who fears predictability more than death. Next, let's examine Clavicus Vile. He's the prince of bargains, deals, wishes, the monkey's paw personified. He's that guy who grants your wish in the worst possible way and then acts surprised when you're upset about it. But here's something interesting. Clavicus Vile has a conscience. Literally. His name is Barbas, and he takes the form of a dog. Why would a Daedric prince need an external conscience? Why would he create or allow a part of himself to exist that argues against his own actions? The answer might be fear. Fear of himself. Fear of what he'd become without restraint. See, Clavicus is all about power gained through bargains. Give me your soul, I'll give you power. Serve me, and I'll grant your wish. Standard devil stuff. But the thing about bargains is they require two willing parties. If Clavicus just took what he wanted, if he forced people into contracts, he'd be Molakbal. Barbas exists to make sure Clavicus stays within certain boundaries, to remind him that even a prince of bargains needs rules. Without rules, bargains become meaningless. Without meaning, Clavicus's entire existence becomes pointless. There are several stories of Clavicus being tricked or bested at his own game. Cyrus in Redguard solved the two-door riddle. Various mortals have found loopholes in his contracts. The Dragonborn can actually refuse his deals or turn them around. Each time this happens, Clavicus gets angry, but also seems pleased. Like part of him enjoys being outwitted, because it proves bargaining still has meaning, that the game isn't rigged, that there's still challenge and uncertainty in the deals he makes. This suggests Clavicus fears obsolescence. If people stop making bargains, if they wise up and realize his deals are always traps, then what is he? A prince with no purpose, a bargainer with no one to bargain with. He needs mortals to keep falling for his tricks, but he also needs some of them to win, to escape, to find the loopholes, because if nobody ever wins, people stop playing. And if people stop playing, Clavicus stops mattering. That's a precarious position. He has to be trustworthy enough that people make deals with him, but treacherous enough to maintain his sphere as the prince of bad bargains. Too far either way, and he loses himself. And there's Barbas, watching, commenting, second-guessing every deal, making sure Clavicus doesn't cross lines that can be uncrossed. That's both annoying and necessary. A conscience you can't ignore because it's literally part of you. Maybe Clavicus is afraid of what he'd do without Barbas. Maybe he's afraid of becoming something worse than he already is. Maybe he's afraid of losing the one thing that keeps him from becoming completely monstrous and therefore meaningless in his sphere. That's deep for a character who usually just shows up to mess with players and then disappear. Let's talk about Azura, because she's weird in ways that don't get discussed enough. Azura is called one of the good Daedra. She actually cares about her mortal followers. She wants their love and devotion. She gets personally upset when they don't love themselves. By Daedric prince standards, she's practically a saint, but she cursed an entire race for one betrayal. When the tribunal used the heart of Lorkhan to become gods, breaking their oath to Azura and to Nerevar, she transformed all the Chimer into the Dunmer, changed their golden skin to ash gray, their eyes to burning red, marked them permanently as oathbreakers, and she held that grudge for thousands of years. Literally millennia of nursing that resentment, planning her revenge, working to topple the tribunal and restore her worship among the Dunmer. That's not the behavior of a benevolent deity. That's the behavior of someone deeply, personally afraid of being forgotten or replaced. Think about it from her perspective. She was one of the most important gods to the Chimer. They loved her, worshipped her, built her shrines everywhere. And then the tribunal came along with stolen godhood and convinced most Dunmer to worship them instead. For a prince who craves love and devotion, who defines herself by her relationship with her followers, that's existential terror. If people can just replace her, if they can find new gods to worship, then what is she? That's controlling, that's possessive. That's the behavior of someone who fears abandonment so much they'll hurt the people they claim to love just to make sure they never leave. And Azura did eventually get her revenge. She guided the Nerevarine to destroy the heart of Lorkhan, ending the source of the tribunal's power. Almalexia went mad and killed Sothasil before the Nerevarine killed her. Vivek disappeared. The tribunal fell. But the Dunmer didn't all flock back to Azura. Many did, sure, but others found new gods or no gods. Some resented her for the curse that still marked them. Her great victory was hollow because you can't force love even if you're a god. That's got to hurt. To spend thousands of years planning revenge, to actually achieve it, and then realize it didn't give you what you wanted. The Dunmer still don't love her the way the Chimer did. They can't. Too much has changed. Too much pain has been inflicted. Azura probably fears that she destroyed the very thing she was trying to save, that her curse pushed away the followers she wanted to protect, that her revenge cost her the devotion she craved, and she can't undo it. The transformation is permanent. The Dunmer will always carry her mark. She can't go back and make different choices. She can't uncurse them and start over. That's the downside of immortality. Your mistakes are eternal too. You have forever to regret them. And for a prince who cares about love and being loved, knowing you've made yourself unlovable to the people you cherish most, that's a special kind of hell. Next, there's this theory in Elder Scrolls lore that's absolutely mind-blowing, and it might explain one of the deepest fears the Daedric princes have. It's called the Tower Theory, and it gets complicated fast. Throughout Tamriel, there are these structures called towers, not just buildings, but metaphysical anchors that hold reality together. Red Mountain is a tower, White Gold Tower in the Imperial City, Crystal Tower in Somerset, the throat of the world. Each one is a pillar holding up the structure of Mundus. Here's where it gets wild. Some people think the towers are what keep the Daedric princes out. Each tower acts like a cosmic fence post, maintaining the barrier between Mundus and oblivion. And throughout history, these towers have been falling. Red Mountain erupted, the heart of Lorkhan was destroyed, Crystal Tower was shattered during the Oblivion Crisis. The theory goes that if enough towers fall, the barrier between Mundus and Oblivion weakens. Some people think that's exactly what the Thalmor want. They're trying to unmake reality itself, return everything to the primordial state before creation, before the Aedra sacrificed themselves, before mortals existed. But here's the terrifying part for the princes. If the towers fall and reality unmakes itself, what happens to them? Do they survive the collapse of existence, or do they get dragged down with everything else? The princes are part of the current cosmological structure. They exist within this reality, even if their realms are in oblivion. If reality itself ceases to be, if the whole Arbis collapses back into the primordial nothing, do the princes collapse with it? Nobody knows. And that uncertainty has to be scary for beings who've spent eons assuming their existence was guaranteed. There's a related theory about the Earthbones. These are the Aedra who gave up their entire existence to become the laws of nature. Gravity, time, physics, they're literally the rules that reality runs on now. Some scholars think the Earthbones are what actually keep the princes in check. The laws of nature themselves reject Daedric incursion. When a prince tries to manifest fully on Nirn, they're fighting against the fundamental structure of reality, against gods who became physics itself. That's why Daedra summoned to Nirn are weaker than in Oblivion. That's why princes can't just waltz in and take over. They're operating in a space where the rules were written by their enemies, and those rules are literally woven into the fabric of existence. Imagine trying to play a game where your opponent didn't just write the rulebook, they became the rulebook. Every move you make has to fight against rules that are actively hostile to your existence. That's what princes face on Nirn, and if the Earthbones are what limit them, then damaging or destroying the Earthbones could either free them or destroy them. It's a gamble. Break the laws of nature and maybe you get freedom, or maybe you get annihilated by the cosmic backlash. The princes probably don't want to find out which outcome is real, so they work within the system, corrupt it where they can, but they don't try to break it completely, because breaking it might break them too. Now, let's talk about something that should keep every Daedric prince awake at night if they truly understood it: the Amaranth. So there's this concept in deeper Elder Scrolls lore that all of reality is a dream. The entire Arbis, everything that exists, is the dream of a sleeping godhead. Some entity achieved ultimate awareness, realized they were the center of all existence, and their dreaming created everything. The godhead dreams, and we exist. The princes exist. All of it is the product of one being's subconscious. Now, here's where it gets really wild. It's possible for someone to achieve Amaranth, to wake up and become a new dreamer, to create their own dream reality separate from this one. The theory says that when someone achieves Amaranth, they leave this reality entirely and create a new one. And the beings in the old reality, they keep existing, but they become completely irrelevant to the new dreamer. Imagine you're a Daedric prince. You've spent eternity building power, gathering worshippers, scheming and plotting. And then some mortal achieves Amaranth and creates a new reality. They're gone. Their consciousness has moved on to dream their own universe into existence. And you're stuck in the old dream, the abandoned reality, irrelevant and powerless in the only way that truly matters. There's evidence that this has happened before, that our reality might not be the first dream, that there were dreamers before our godhead, and there might be dreamers after, beings who achieve Amaranth and move beyond. Vivek studied this. His writings hint at understanding the dream nature of reality. He achieved Kim, which is like lucid dreaming within the Godhead's dream. And he wrote about Amaranth as the final step, the ultimate transcendence. For the Daedric princes, this represents the scariest possible future, becoming fossils. Relics of an abandoned dream that nobody cares about anymore. All your power, all your scheming, all your existence reduced to background noise in a reality that the important people have already left behind. It's a trap. The more you understand about the nature of reality, the closer you get to escaping it. And once you escape, everyone left behind becomes meaningless. The princes are stuck in a cosmos that might already be obsolete. They're scrambling for power in a dream that someone might wake up from at any moment. And when that happens, all their eternity of scheming will mean absolutely nothing. Next, let's talk about something the Red Guards believe. They have this god called Satakal, also known as the World Skin. He's a god who eats himself over and over in an endless cycle. Each time he eats his own tail, reality ends and begins again. Now, most cultures in Tamriel don't take this literally. They think it's a metaphor. But what if it's not? What if reality really does end and restart in cycles? What if everything, including the Daedric princes, gets reset periodically? The Red Guards, who achieve a state called the Walkabout, supposedly survive this cycle. They step outside the world skin somehow and continue existing when everything else ends. They remember previous kalpas, previous versions of reality. If this is true, and if the princes don't survive the cycle or don't remember previous iterations, that's terrifying. It means everything they've built, all their accumulated power and knowledge, could be wiped away. They'd start over with no memory of what came before. Alduin was supposed to be the world eater. The dragon who ends each kalpa and begins the next, he was part of this cosmic recycling system, but he got corrupted. Instead of ending the world at the appointed time, he tried to rule it. The last dragonborn killed Alduin permanently, absorbed his soul. That means the cycle might be broken. The current kalpa might be the last one, stretching on forever because there's no longer an entity to end it and begin the next. For most people, that sounds great. Eternal existence, no apocalypse. But for cosmic entities like the Daedric princes, it raises questions. Were the previous kalpas different? Were there different princes in previous versions of reality? Are the current princes actually newcomers in the grand scheme of things, thinking they're eternal when they've really only existed for one cycle? And if Alduin was keeping something in check, something that needed to be reset periodically, what happens now that he's gone? Does reality start degrading without the scheduled maintenance of apocalypse? Some theories suggest that each kalpa has different rules, different earth bones, different laws of nature. If that's true, then the princes have been adapting to new rule sets each cycle, even if they don't remember doing so. But now the cycle's broken, the rules are locked in. And maybe that's good for the princes, or maybe they were depending on the reset in ways they don't consciously understand. There's another layer to this. Some people think Satakal isn't just a god, but a representation of something real, the ultimate limit, the thing even the Godhead's dream can't escape. Time itself eating its own tail, forcing everything to start over. If that's true, and if the princes are subject to it, then they're not actually eternal. They're just long-lived within one cycle, doomed to end and potentially restart when Satakal completes another revolution. The scariest part, they might have already been through this thousands of times, lived entire eternities, built empires of souls, schemed across eons, and then been reset to nothing, starting over with no memory of what they accomplished before. That's a special kind of cosmic horror. To have an eternity, lose it, get it back, and lose it again, over and over, never knowing you've already won and lost this same game countless times before. Here's a theory that doesn't get talked about enough. What if there's actually a hierarchy among the Daedric princes that we don't see? They present themselves as equals. 17 princes, each with their own sphere, each with their own power. But what if that's a lie? What if some princes are secretly subordinate to others? Nocturnal claims to be the Urdra, the first and greatest. Other princes seem to acknowledge this, at least partially. But what does that actually mean? Is she their ruler, their creator, or just the oldest among equals? Some texts hint at something called the ruling king, a position of power above the normal princes, an entity that coordinates or controls Daedric activity in ways the regular princes can't resist. The theory goes that this ruling king isn't any single prince we know about. It's either a completely separate entity, or it's a position that different princes can occupy at different times, like a cosmic game of musical chairs. If that's true, then everything the princes do might be in service of becoming the ruling king, or avoiding being controlled by whoever currently holds that position. Imagine finding out that your entire existence is just part of someone else's game, that you're not actually a god king of your own destiny, but a pawn in a higher entity's schemes. That would shatter the ego of a Daedric prince pretty thoroughly. There's evidence for this in how princes sometimes act in concert even when it doesn't benefit them individually. The Jiggaluk curse required cooperation. The Cold Harbor Compact required agreement. What if these moments of unity happen because someone with authority over all of them forced the issue? Some people think the ruling king might be Lorcan, that his death was actually a transformation into a higher state of being, that he's still out there, still influencing events, but on a level that even the princes can't perceive. Others think it might be Akatosh, the dragon god of time, that he's not just the most powerful Aedra, but an entity that stands above both Aedra and Daedra, that his sacrifice in creating the world was actually a power move that put him in charge of everyone else. If any of these theories are true, it means the princes aren't as free as they pretend. They're subject to forces and hierarchies they hide from mortals. They're players in a game where they're not the highest tier, and that's humiliating. To present yourself as the ultimate power while knowing deep down that you're actually middle management. That somewhere above you, there's an entity pulling strings you can't even see. Let's talk about Periate, because he's weird in ways that illuminate something important about Daedric fear. Periate is the Taskmaster, the Lord of Pestilence. He's often called the weakest of the Daedric princes, which makes no sense if you think about it. He controls disease. He could theoretically wipe out all mortal life if he wanted to. So why is he considered weak? The answer might be, he doesn't want power, he wants order. Periate's sphere is about maintaining the natural order of oblivion, making sure the lesser Daedra stay in their places, ensuring the cosmic hierarchy functions properly. He's like the middle manager of oblivion, and he seems perfectly happy with that role. This is terrifying to the other princes because it suggests something they don't want to admit. Purpose might be more important than power. See, most princes crave power for its own sake. More worshippers, more influence, more souls. They're constantly competing, always trying to get ahead, but Periate just does his job, and he's content. What if the secret to happiness, even for a Daedric prince, isn't accumulating power but fulfilling your purpose? What if Periate has figured out something the others haven't? That's scary because it suggests the other princes are chasing the wrong thing, that they could have contentment if they just accepted their roles instead of constantly scheming for more. But accepting your role means accepting limitations, means admitting you're not the center of the universe, and the princes can't do that. Their egos won't allow it. So they look at Periate, call him the weakest, and secretly wonder if he's actually the wisest. There's another theory about Periate, that he's actually the most dangerous prince because he's the most patient. While the others chase immediate power and gratification, Periate plays the long game. He works on scales that make even other immortals uncomfortable. Disease is slow. Infection takes time, An epidemic doesn't explode overnight, it builds. And Periate has eternity to let his plagues incubate. Some people think Periate is actually working on something huge. A cosmic plague that will infect not just mortals, but reality itself. A sickness that will spread to the other princes, to the Aedra, to everything. And because he's patient, because he's willing to wait eons for the right moment, nobody sees it coming. They dismiss him as weak, as content with his minor role, when really he's orchestrating something that will make Mehrunes Dagon's invasions look like petty vandalism. If that theory is true, then Periate represents the fear of underestimation, the terror that the thing you dismissed as harmless is actually the biggest threat you face. And by the time you realize it, it's already too late. The infection has already spread. The other princes might suspect this. They might look at Periate and wonder if his contentment is real or an act. If his weakness is genuine or camouflage for something they should actually be terrified of. And that uncertainty, that not knowing, might be exactly what Periate wants. Because a threat you can't identify is a threat you can't defend against. I want to leave you with something that really stuck with me while researching all this. The Daedric princes present themselves as forces of nature, inevitable, eternal, unchangeable, and in a lot of ways, they are those things. They've existed for longer than we can comprehend. They'll exist long after we're gone. They have power that mortals can barely imagine, but they're not beyond limitation. They're not truly omnipotent, and they know it. That knowledge, that awareness of their own limits, that's what makes them dangerous. Because a being that knows it can be threatened will do anything to prevent those threats from materializing. They'll scheme, manipulate, destroy, corrupt, whatever it takes to maintain their position. But it's that same knowledge that makes them vulnerable. Because if they can be threatened, if they have limits, if they have fears, then they can be outmaneuvered, they can be defeated. Maybe not permanently, maybe not easily, but it's possible, and possibility is a funny thing. Once you know something is possible, once the idea exists in your mind, it becomes real in a way it wasn't before. The impossible becomes unlikely. The unlikely becomes difficult. The difficult becomes achievable. Every time a mortal banishes a Daedric prince, every time someone escapes their realm, every time a champion defies their will, the possible expands. The boundaries shift. The game changes. So yeah, the Daedric princes are afraid. They're afraid of each other, afraid of forces beyond them, afraid of mortals who refuse to kneel. And maybe, deep down in whatever passes for their consciousness, they're afraid that someday someone will figure out the truth, that gods can bleed, that infinity has edges, that eternity can end. And on that day, when that knowledge becomes widespread, when mortals stop seeing Daedric princes as untouchable forces and start seeing them as powerful but limited entities, everything changes. Maybe that day is coming. Maybe it's already here. Maybe you, playing through these games, defying these princes, breaking their rules and rewriting their stories, maybe you're part of it. Something to think about next time Molag Bal or Mehrunes Dagon starts talking to you like you're beneath their notice. Next time a Daedric prince acts like they own you. Remember, they need you to believe they're all-powerful more than you need to actually believe it. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think. Are the Daedric princes truly afraid? What do you think is their greatest weakness? And would you ever want to face one knowing what we know now? And bye.